And we're live.
Hey everybody, welcome to this odd special edition of the Cult of Copy Show. This is the first time we've ever tried to do something like this. As you can see, we have a live guest. It's only the second guest we've ever had on the show, but I figured we're both here in Orlando at Marketing Mayhem for the JV Zoo event here in Orlando, and I figured why not chat with my buddy Tim on camera like we frequently do online, and hopefully you guys get a lot out of it the same way that I usually do when we talk to Tim. For new viewers of the show, I'm your host, Reverend Dr. Sir Colin Theriot, which it normally says on the lower third below my head there, but it couldn't fit with Tim's name there, so I had to chop all my titles out. But they're all on my name badge, if you want to check that out, all my phony internet credentials. Anyway, I run a group called the Cult of Copy, and we are a chat group that talks daily about persuasion, marketing, mind control, that kind of shit.
Low-key stuff.
Yeah, nothing too weird.
Right.
But
occasionally
we have
cats.
over 10,000 members in over 100 countries all over the world. And we'd be happy to have you join us. If you would like to, you can do that at the URL that you see on the lower third there, if you are interested in that. The show normally records new episodes live every Thursday at 2 p.m. We're doing it Friday instead because I was on an airplane at that time yesterday. But if you want to catch live episodes, it is an interactive show. So if you leave a comment on the YouTube channel or on the Facebook posts about this episode, our director Zane, who is at the console, I guess you would say, it looks like he's driving a spaceship there. He is keeping an eye on that. So if you ask a question or have a comment for us, he will put it up on the screen. And you can interact with us live. If you are not watching us live, you're probably watching this on our YouTube channel, which is at youtube.com/cultofcopy, which has 20 previous episodes besides this one. So if you like what we talk about there, we would love for you to check those old episodes out and subscribe. And hey, tell your friends. We're not a very secret cult. We're kind of out in the open. And we use cult right in the name. So if you like...
You're like that cult from The Leftovers.
Right.
Where they just stand around.
Yeah, we're out. It's not secret at all. You can tell everyone you know.
This isn't Fight Club. Tell as many people
right.
as you know.
It's the opposite of Fight Club.
Gotcha.
When you come into the Cult of Copy and there's not 500 more people every day, you're like, someone's not following the rules of Fight Club, which is to tell everyone.
You need to tell everyone about this cult. Yes, please do.
So, Tim, like I said, has been a friend of mine for a long time, and we met professionally first. We know each other through work as independent internet nerds.
We met at Practical Profits, I think.
That's right. When I first met you, you were a speaker already at that event.
Right.
And I was just some jerk in the crowd who had paid you to go to your event.
Right, which we like because we like making money.
Right. And from there, we've just kept running into each other, speaking at events.
Yep.
We've been in a mastermind group together.
Yep.
We chat online pretty frequently.
A couple times a week,
We start doing similar stuff at similar times, not just the beards.
Yeah, right.
But we also... you started your own podcast right around the time that I started doing this show.
Yeah, that's true.
We're going to talk a little bit about that, Tim's show, To Drink Tim. But before we get into that, for people that don't know your background or what you do professionally, why they should listen to you in any way, give us a little bit of insight into...
Sure. So I quit my job in late 2008, early 2009, did offline marketing, primarily worked with local businesses, helped them establish an online brand and presence, and did that up until about 2011. Took on a business partner. In 2012, things did not go well, so we terminated that relationship about a year out, and then really kind of had a talk with myself because everything had crumbled around me. My business had been in the tank. I just wasn't really happy with what I was doing, so I said, well, let's think about this. Is the direction you're on right now the one you want to keep going? I said, no. In fact, I was within 30 minutes of just quitting the business. I was so sick of it. So I said, okay, I got to make a drastic change. So I fired all my offline clients. I sent an email out to all my offline business owners and people wanting to be offline business people, about 30,000 plus people, and said, hey, that thing you know, love, and trust me about, I'm not going to do that anymore. So, I don't recommend that, but that's what I did because that's just what I had to do. And then really embarked on a personal and professional revitalization, rebranding, remaking, if you will. And now I do primarily Kindle and online marketing. So I do Kindle marketing, and a lot of that I owe to Colin as far as the process that I take. So I do the Kindle marketing, and I sell that. I also publish books. I'm an Amazon bestseller, woo. And then, so 7 people bought my book at 1 o'clock in the morning, so now I'm an Amazon bestseller, right? And then manufacturing credibility, there you go. And then I teach that process, and then I teach about how I teach that process. So I try to hit it from all angles, if you will. And I've been doing that for the last 12 months. Actually, August is a year I've been in Kindle, and I started with nothing. I had no Kindle list, no Kindle following, and I was able to build that up into a successful 6-figure business. And this year we've already beat 2013 numbers. Total sales, and I think we're like 190% more profitable. So it turned out to be very, very lucrative and very rewarding as well to do what I did.
Yeah, Tim's doing way better than me this year, but it's because I created another human being.
Right, yeah. You win, yeah.
I was busy, adding life to the planet.
Right. I have 5 dogs.
What I loved about how you approached that Kindle stuff that you did was that rather than trying to say, okay, here's something I'm an expert in, and I'm going to build an audience around teaching that, you're like, I have no experience at doing this, and if you want to follow me, and maybe you'll learn what not to do by seeing me fuck it up.
Right.
And then you sort of just rolled it into that, and as your experience grows, the level of your followers keeps stepping up too.
Yeah.
So
well, and you really helped me a ton with that because I believe in the old guru model. You got to go out, you got to be really hyper successful, make a lot of money with it, and then tell people. And then Colin, actually, when he gave a talk at the breakout, I did not listen to it live, but we got the recordings, and I listened to it, and I was like, holy shit, this is an amazing talk. It just was great because he really talked about a concept that is a benchmark in my business now, and that is just 2 steps ahead. And I never would have believed, if I didn't do it myself, that people really will pay you to be brutally honest and say, look, I have no idea what I'm doing, but how about I promise to spend $500 to learn it, you pay me $17 to see me succeed or fail. And people will do that because they want to see what you're doing. And the other thing I would have never believed is the level of respect that you can have. Because like as a guru, you can't not know something, right? It's like, oh, well, what's the flux capacitor of this thing? Like, 64. Like when you're just getting started, you can go, hey, Zane, that's a great question, man. I honestly don't know. Let me try it, and I'll get back to you. And not only will they appreciate that, they respect you a hell of a lot more because they've never heard someone say, that's a great question, I don't know. So you can be more humble, you can be more authentic, you can be more real. And like, in the past, I always thought I had to, I don't want to say put on airs, but like I could never have a bad day online, right? Or I could never tell about my personal struggles with depression and kind of rebuilding, and I just didn't feel comfortable doing that. Whereas now I feel like I can just be open and at times incredibly vulnerable with people, not only personally, but also on the podcast and things like that, where I share a lot of deep shit that people probably wouldn't normally do in that guru role. So it's just been very rewarding, not only financially, which is cool, but to be able to be open and honest with the group.
Yeah. And while we're talking about that, that's a good segue into one of the topics I wanted to talk to you about, which is authenticity.
Right.
And like you said, a lot of people have this idea of creating an image that they need to adopt in order for people to want to buy things from them. Right?
Yeah. Dan Kennedy taught me that years ago. You basically match your target market in your look, your appearance, your talk. And I think a great example, at least for me personally, was early Frank Kern. When he was making Georgia, and and then he was, he did a YouTube video, and the thing is shaking. His knee is shaking so bad that it's shaking the camera on the thing. When he's like, hey, y'all, I just moved out to California. And I mean, real awkward stuff. And then he disappears and comes back, and he's got long hair, and he's a surfer, and he's this internet bum that makes millions of dollars.
Yeah, and he's actually kind of reverted to the suit guy,
Right.
but with the experience of it's like looped back on itself. So
Well, because he's going after that business market.
Right. The thing that I like about authenticity is it's funny you bring that up because I think the first version of suit wearing Frank Kern was maybe inauthentic.
Right.
He was playing dress up.
Right.
Then got to be successful as the surfer dude.
Right.
Now he's the successful suit guy because that's how he actually wants to dress.
Right.
That's the community he lives in and operates in.
He's married to a supermodel, so he's got
to You got to step it up.
Yeah. Can't go to Walmart to get your wardrobe with her.
But that is to say, we're not saying the suit wearing guy is inauthentic, but it is inauthentic if you're wearing it just as a costume.
Right.
So what I found going out on my own was that rather than put out an image, the internet is big enough and widespread enough and has enough people who can express a preference for you as you being a container for whatever information you want. Like, there's enough people there to build an audience out of without having to pander or be artificial.
And I think for a lot of people, myself included, and I would have never admitted this 2 or 3 years ago, but as I've gone through a lot of counseling, I see it like at our core level, we want to be loved and we want to be liked. And I think the reason why they do that is they think, well, this is a clean, vanilla image that everyone will accept. And the problem with that is you really build yourself up, and then if that's not who you are, then I think you do yourself a disservice. So one of the events I spoke at, and if you ever seen me speak, I think I do a pretty decent job, but I swear, not intentional, it just comes out. And this guy came up to me and he said, Tim, I want to have you do a webinar with me, but you cannot cuss. And I said, okay, great, yeah, we'll do it. And then that whole night I dreamt about me cussing on this webinar, right, and then getting kicked off in the middle of it. And my philosophy has always been this. The guy you see on stage, the guy that you see right here is always going to be the guy you're going to see in the bar, or you're going to see me at 2 o'clock in the morning. It's not going to be something different. And I don't know if you've ever met any of your idols, but I've had the chance to meet some rock stars, and I'm always disappointed because who you build them up to be in your brain, they never are when you meet them in person. And to me, that's the worst thing you can do, is just not have that ability. So for me, I would much rather be the guy, whether you like me or not, you're going to get me this way, and you're going to know what I'm saying, and you're going to know how I feel about things. And if you like it, that's great. If you don't, that's perfectly fine. So I think I had to accept that not everyone was going to like me. That happens. But the cool thing is the people that really like you, they are like hardcore fans. They're not like they're like, I love that guy.
Right. They actually like you.
Right.
And not just what you're doing for them,
right,
or that you're pandering to them to be like them. You get actual real fans.
Right. Well, like we talked about this the other day about Facebook groups, and you've been very successful with the Cult of Copy, but I haven't been successful in my groups. Like I've got one on trafficking conversion notes, and I've got one on outsourcing, and those groups are dead. And I'm like, Colin, what I do is I open a group about yourself, just you, because I think people would really resonate with that, and then you could talk about whatever you want to because it's you and it's your life.
Right, especially since you already have your podcast.
Right.
Which started out kind of being about business, but it's been so many things. It's basically you talking about whatever you want to talk about.
Right, yeah, right.
And I've heard nothing but good things. Like, no one I've ever heard has been like, I listen to it, I don't like it.
Right.
Like everybody likes it. Even some of the people we talked here that are our peers in our industry are like, I like listening to Tim's podcast because it's funny. Right. Everyone else does the how-to and business talk, blah, 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 boring stuff. Tim's podcast is going to be funny, and it's going to be real.
Right, and you'll learn something.
Yeah, and I think that just shows something I tell people all the time, that you don't necessarily have to be amazing or high quality, you just have to be different.
Right.
And the easiest way to be different is to be yourself.
Right.
Because you're automatically different.
Yeah.
Like, if you're going a personal branding angle, your personality is your own USP.
Right.
Like, no one else can imitate you because you're unique automatically.
Right.
You're just going to be some combination of funny and serious.
Right.
And your life experience all comes into play, no matter what it is that you sell or talk about. And that authenticity, it's almost like that phrase that if you never lie, you don't have to remember the lie.
Right.
You know, like it's a lot easier to keep your story straight if you just tell the truth all the
Right.
time.
Yeah. Right.
I think to some degree, authenticity is the same way. Like you said, you come to an event, you speak on stage, you put a particular image out. Do you want to have to be that guy all
Right.
night if that's not really you?
Well, and I think the other thing it does is it pigeonholes you. Like you can never change. You could never say like, you know, one day I'm just going to stop shaving and grow a beard. You know, I mean, you know, you could. It really does. It pigeonholes you. It's like people expect you to act or look or talk a certain way, whereas you're like, I'm a human being and I'm a work in progress. And this week I may have the beard. Next week I may not. This week we'll talk about business. Next week we're going to talk about, hey, let me tell you about how I see things through different filters, or let me tell you about how, you know, I got super depressed and how I got over that, or let me name some people that I'm really jealous of right now in the internet marketing world and tell you why that's a bad thing. And it gives you a much bigger range because, like you say, I'm just talking about me. I'm not, you know, and you can't. And the other thing is this: you can't call bullshit because I'm talking about me. You know, you can't.
Right,
be like,
right.
Well, you're lying. It's like, no, that's me. That's
Exactly.
I'm not lying. It is what it is.
Exactly. It's like making your own reality show.
Right.
And then, you know, because of that, it will overlap your work, which for me is copywriting. For
Right.
you is having various business ventures,
Right.
whichever one you're chasing down at the time.
Right.
That's part of it, but I think most people stop at that. They're like, that's what my business is about.
Right.
And I think it's interesting, the age that we are, we're roughly the same age, like The Real World on MTV was like that first reality show where they're like,
Oh,
holy
I watch that
crap,
all the time. Yeah.
holy crap, people, and like the first season weren't like drunken, horny teenagers. They
Yeah.
were all like 30-year-old adults.
Yeah, they were trying to
struggling.
business
Yeah.
messages and
Right,
stuff like
struggling
that.
to kick off a career. I
Right.
remember like one lady was a rapper,
Yeah.
and another guy was like a cartoonist.
Wasn't Puck was on the first one? The John Brennan guy, wasn't he?
Yeah.
He was a guitarist, country.
Mhm.
Yeah, they had a cop. Remember?
Right.
They had the guy that was going to surfing UCLA.
Yeah,
Him
and it was all
Dominic and a couple others.
real people with like just doing real people stuff.
Right.
But the audience responded to it the same way they respond to like celebrity figures.
Yeah.
So really, all stuff like you and I are doing with authenticity and audience building, you're making your own reality show basically. Like
Right.
You're making yourself a character in what you're doing and showing the whole show instead of just here's the thing we made.
Right. Yeah.
Which I find this a very interesting way to build a career basically, because like.
Well, and the other thing,
You know, like, who else can make it
Right.
but you? And then if the audience is there because they like you can't do anything wrong.
Right.
You know, like.
and I think for me, the other thing it helps is by being authentic, it helps me understand my decision-making process. And, you know, like, I'll be honest, I struggle, and I look at my friends' businesses, and I go, man, they're making so much money. I would love to do that. But then I stop and I go, I don't want to work the hours they do. I don't want to have the time they do. So
Yeah.
as a result of that, it lets me know, hey, that's great for them, but it doesn't work for me. And Colin's great with that, much better than I am. Well, no, because we'll talk about it all the time. He's like, yeah, I see that. I have no interest in working that hard. And I'm like, that's really simple but profound because that's true. I don't either.
Yeah, I think we've talked about it on an earlier episode of the show, maybe, where if you want a mentor and you don't like the life you have, you want to either start a business or just start changing priorities, whatever it is. When you pick a mentor, a lot of people look at that guy's result, and that's how they pick the mentor.
Right.
But you really want to look at what we're talking about, that reality show day-by-day existence, because you can't have the guy's business who's 10 times more successful than you, and he's like a workaholic, and he neglects his family.
Right.
You can't have what he has without doing it the way he does it.
Right.
And he can't teach you a different way to get his result
Right.
without doing his work.
Yeah, with his or staff.
Right. So it's really important when you're trying to pick like your idols or your mentors or people that you're going to try and model what you're doing.
Right.
You need to know what their day-to-day life is like, because that is what you don't really want the money for having the money.
Right.
You want
the result.
Right, and a lot of people are bad at that separation between your what it is that you want, like your life to be like,
Right.
and how they think that is going to be accomplished,
Absolutely.
right?
Yeah, no,
So
I agree.
They look to model the successful business results so that they can have the money to finance this lifestyle. But if the guy who can get those results doesn't have that lifestyle,
Right.
you won't be able to either by
Right.
imitating him. So I think that's even a further added benefit of being authentic when you are trying to build an audience, trying to just get people to follow you, and they're like, I see people making tons of money just doing stupid crap like playing video games and
Right.
recording it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, we're not talking about like you have to get a degree in something or some measure of financial results. It doesn't even have to be about that, because you can literally make money the same way a TV show does. Show ads,
Yeah.
have sponsors. As long as you have the audience, you can make a living off of that audience. And really, the only downside that I found is the same one you mentioned, that like you have to get over the fact that there are some people who are just going to hate it.
Right.
But they have a right to, because you're putting yourself in front of them.
Right.
I hate all kinds of shit that's on TV. Like, just hate the fact that it exists. Like, it drives me nuts when you're flipping channels and they're just like,
keeping up with Kardashians.
yeah. Like not only is that making money, but like people work on that all day.
Yeah.
Like, that's somebody's job.
She's got an app now that's like going to do like 700,000 a month.
Yeah, we talked about that on a previous episode of the show. Actually, what it is the app company basically approached her with like a licensing deal.
Right.
To just put her name on it. And now she's going to make like $250 million in a year.
It's retarded.
Just from putting her name on it.
But it's what's funny about that is if you go back and you look at where she got started. I saw this clip the other day on E! Because I'm an entertainment junkie. They have an episode of Paris Hilton's reality show, and Kim Kardashian's in it. And Kim talks, and Paris goes, "I'm sorry, why are you talking? Is my whatever clean? Is my closet clean?" And she was like, "Oh, not yet. I'm about to do it." But that's how she got started. She was a personal assistant to Paris Hilton. And just think about it. That's a girl that's fucking married to Kanye West, right? Going to make $250 million off an app. Has probably one of the highest selling sex tapes of all time. Has perfume, has clothing lines.
Right.
Her family is set for life. And look where she started. And all it is their wacky and crazy adventures in life.
And they're willing to be weirdos in front of people to get the audience.
Yeah. I mean, I'm all about being authentic, but you give me $250 million, I'll be whatever you want.
Right.
Yeah.
And one thing that's weird about reality shows on TV that I think is different from a lot of these internet personalities that you see, TV wants it to be as mass appeal as possible.
Right.
So the reason a lot of reality shows on TV are stupid and feature stupid people doing mistakes, basically, is because that has that lowest common denominator appeal. The reason people watch on TV is to feel better about themselves.
Yeah.
Whereas I think when you can make yourself into this kind of figure on the internet and be in control of it yourself, you can portray something more positive that wouldn't play on TV.
Yeah, or you can be like, the comments I get from my podcast is the episodes people like is when I just go, hey, I got something on my heart and I want to talk about this. Like, hey guys, I struggle with depression and here's what I've done to help with that. Or let me tell you about some people that I'm really hating on right now and here's why that's a bad thing and here's what I need to do. And I find that when people see it, I think what appeals, this is my guess, what appeals to them is that it's different and that no one else is out there. Frank Kern isn't going to talk about, man, I've had dark days and things. They portray things like Brendan Bouchard. That guy's always happy, always lives, loves, and matter. That guy doesn't ever go and go, man, I'm just getting my ass kicked by the world this week, and let me tell you about it. And I think when people do that, they see the real side of you, where they see that, hey, this guy's human, he's got emotions, he's got all this stuff, and I think that really plays well. There's a book called Love Yourself Like Your Life Depends on It by my friend Kamal Ravikant, and Tim Ferriss recommended it. And I'll never forget this comment. Someone posted in his little chat thing, Tim, I can't believe you're recommending this book. I never even thought you had bad days. But like they just thought, like, oh, he's Tim Ferriss, he never has bad days. So when he wrote an article about being depressed, like, everyone came out and supported you. And that's the other thing, like, ultimately, we may tear people down, but ultimately we want people to do really well. And if you come out and you go, man, I'm really vulnerable about this, you get a lot of support and encouragement from people who are invested in you now, and they want to see you succeed. And when you succeed, it's like they succeed.
Yeah, and it's a weird kind of thing because I've encountered people also, as well as just the fact that you have to deal with haters. There are people who are like, who are you to like try and put yourself on a pedestal like
Right.
that? Like, oh, you need the adoration of all these people. Like, yeah, it's nice to have support from strangers that like you.
Right.
Like, it's really good for your self-esteem. But like, the thing is, if you were doing it as part of like that old model where like the media business is saying, here's who you should idolize.
Right.
There is a lot of egotism in that. But with what the internet does, I'm imagining a world where like everyone can have fans.
Right.
You know, like every single boring person in the world can have fans.
Because someone's going to identify.
Right, that just like them and want to be part of it and are willing to jump in. Sure, you're going to have haters too. But I think, like, how amazing that would be for so many people to just know, like, yeah, I have, like, a fan following of people I've never met that think I'm cool online.
I forget the group, but they're pretty popular doing the video game thing, you know, and they were talking about how much content they have to create. But the thing they talked about that I don't think a lot of people picked up, they said, imagine waking up every day and having 10,000 people telling you to kill yourself. Every single day.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, because we get that every day. That's what we deal with every day. Emails, you know, YouTube messages, Facebook messages. He's like, you know, it's great to have the adoration of all these people, but you have tons of people that are unhappy with themselves and want to tear you down because you did something with your life. You know?
Yeah.
And that's what a lot of it is. It's like, well, how come you can do that? I've never done anything with my life. I've never done this or that, instead of like being super happy.
Yeah, and it's funny because it's hard not to take that kind of thing personally because you are being authentic.
Right.
So when somebody's like, I hate your stuff, they are literally saying they hate your life.
I hate you.
Your life is stupid. I hate it.
Right.
Like, why would I want to watch it? But the thing to realize is that, in a sense, what you're putting out there belongs to them in a way.
Right.
It's not you. You're making a recording of you.
Right.
And they're like, I don't like the recording.
Right.
I don't like the material.
But it doesn't mean they don't like you. Yeah.
Right. And it's that's something that helps me just like not care about people saying bad things about whatever.
Yeah, they're not saying it bad about me. They're saying it about this video I shot.
Right.
They had a bad podcast.
And it's funny because like my reaction to that when I frame it that way is like, yeah, I guess it could have been better, but I didn't feel like trying too hard that day.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like
some minimum effort.
I'm almost like, well, yeah, I think it kind of was not the best that it could be either. So like now the hater is my buddy.
Right.
And we're both like, yeah, it did kind of suck.
Yeah.
I could do better.
Yeah.
But
I like that. I have to remember that.
I like the support and the enjoyment way better than the negativity. You know what I mean? Like it more than pays.
Well, especially doing it like
for the increased negativity
on Facebook. You know, Facebook is just dopamine release central. Yeah. You know.
Yeah.
I can't tell you how many times I posted something, hit refresh, and like shit, no one liked it yet. You know, go back and go, did I post it right? Did I do, you know? So it can also be dangerous where you're chasing stuff, or you can, you know, I've also seen it where people start pandering towards the audience, and I think it's very important that you kind of you do your own thing. Like, you know, you talk about being vulnerable. Like, I really struggle with talking about me going and seeing a counselor, because I feel like there's a negative self-connotation. Oh, that guy's messed up in the head. He does, you know, so it took a long time. The first time I talked about it was a breakout. I couldn't even get through it without crying, you know. So, you know, I mean, I just couldn't. So, but I still have that fear to this day that someone's going to get heated with me and be like, well, I listen to your podcast, and, you know, and throw that back in my face. Like, that's my biggest fear. But at the same time, it's like, what if I'm benefiting people? Because I've got those emails from people that go, dude, because you mentioned that, I'm going to go talk to someone. Or, man, I realized that what you were talking about was me, and I didn't realize that, and I need to fix this. And so, to me, the good outweighs the bad. It's like, I'd much rather have one. If I, honestly, I mean, I know it sounds lame because we've heard it before, but it's like, really, if I could help one person, like, fix their fucked up life, like I fixed I'm fixing mine, like, that would be, that's the greatest reward ever. Like, you can hate on me for the rest of my life. It's like, I made a difference in that guy's life.
Yeah, and that's what makes it, to me, not egotistical or selfish.
Right.
You know, like, yes, I'm a jerk to people on the internet for fun, but I do it in a way where, like, I do it kind of, like, professionally. It's my job. I get paid to be myself. And if I can just, like, I'm not saying other people have to be a jerk or whatever like I am, but if I could be an example to somebody to be like, well, I am deserving and capable of being a successful person
Right.
with the person I am now,
Right.
without having to compromise that in any way.
Well, it's like I'm successful in spite of my flaws.
Right.
I mean, really, that's, I mean, Colin and I, if you combined our work hours together, still wouldn't work as hard as some of our friends do. But that goes back to what you talked about, because I always look at the money, and Colin's like, yeah, but dude, look at the lifestyle. And you're like, you're right. By the way, someone's asking, what's the book I mentioned? It's called Love Yourself Like Your Life Depended on It, and just type Kamal, Kamal and R, and you'll see it there. It's a very short book. It's 8,000 words. You'll get through it, and it's a great book that kind of teaches you to love yourself. That's just the best way to do it. But no, I agree with you. Being authentic is great. It's the only way that I'll do my business now. And the other thing is this, you have to understand that by doing that, you may be sacrificing some income. You may be, because I know people that are much more successful financially in Kindle than I am. But how much of that is real? How much of that is fake? How much of that is this? And to me, I'd much rather have an authentic business where I can be myself. I can do what I want. And the great thing is, we talk about them falling in love with you and not your product. Is tomorrow I could say, hey guys, you know what? I decided that I'm done with Kindle. I'm over it. So I'm going to go try this new thing, and I'd have people follow. They'd be like, okay, man,
absolutely,
we'll do it. I won't do Facebook, but I could do, I could say, hey, you know what, guys, I think Amazon physical products, I want to give that a shot. And people would be like, okay, you may not keep everybody, you'll lose some people, but people will be like, Tim, okay, great, because it's Tim, not because I'm an expert, not because, and I could start that whole process again. That's really what your talk taught me, was and I think I even told you that, we're talking about everything. Oh, sorry, was I half in the whole way? Yeah. Oh, that's cool. It's just one of those things. It's like, if I do that, I can use that model for anything, and I can talk about anything, and I can do anything. And I think that's the most powerful thing, because people buy into you more than they buy into your product.
And it's funny, we hadn't thought about I'm sorry, I got distracted by the post on the screen. Damn, I totally lost my train of thought there.
Okay, I'm trying to go back. Oh, talking about
yeah, I remember now. It's because we were talking about the negative blowback that you can get from haters, and like how you can take it really personally.
Right.
I found I didn't realize that this was something that helped until we were just talking about it just now. But having a Facebook group for my fans,
right,
that I can kick out anyone who doesn't like me,
right,
is very, very valuable, because you don't really have that ability when you're getting like comments on your YouTube videos or even a blog. Random assholes are going to show up and, like you said, tell you to kill yourself.
Yeah, you're a scammer, go fuck yourself.
Yeah, there's like all kind of terrible things that people are going to be able to get at you in open social media. But I found having a group that I run and can prune and kick the people out that are going to blow the vibe, because I control the whole environment, that has been massively beneficial, because then you get only the positive stuff.
Absolutely.
Which, again, seems egotistical, but, like, who gives a fuck?
Yeah.
Like, that's what I want. Like, I only want positive, cool people that are in the same mindset as me, and I run that environment. I'm ruthless about maintaining it.
Right.
So, like, I feel pretty good about what I do all day, every day, because I'm just sitting in a crowd of people who are all, like, fans of the same stuff.
Right.
And I'm sort of like the head fan, if that makes sense.
No, dude, it does. And I think that's powerful. Before the group thing, I just would keep a list of testimonials. And I always had a bad day, I would just read the people who wrote in, like, dude, you helped change my life, or we did it. And it reminds you of your value. But, I mean, going back to that, you're cultivating a proper crowd. I mean, if you don't like Linkin Park, you're not going to go to a Linkin Park show, right? And you're certainly not going to go to a Linkin Park show, get some center tickets, and then be like, these guys suck, like the whole
Right.
They're going to kick you out, because they don't want you there ruining the experience for everybody else. I mean, that's just the bottom line. Okay, apparently someone wants to know the name of my book. Oh, I wrote a book called The Creativity Checklist. You can get it on Amazon. It is an Amazon bestseller. I sent 7 copies. It sold thousands of copies. It's sold 8 now. Yeah, you guys can check that out if you want to.
let's talk about your podcast.
All right.
What was the idea behind it, and why did you want to start doing it?
Man, I went to Traffic and Conversions. I saw James Schramko talk about his podcast, and I was like, man, that's kind of interesting. I should try one of those. And I totally forgot about it. And then my wife was out of town, and I thought, okay, I don't want to do a regular podcast because there's plenty of business,
Right.
What you do with a squeeze page is you click here. So I said, well, let me see about just doing a podcast and do it for fun. And I said, well, wouldn't it be fun if I got drunk and did a podcast? Because I don't know if you've ever seen the show called Drunk History on I hadn't seen it until after I started my podcast, but that's basically what I was trying to do with. So what was really cool was I just said, let me try it. I put it out there. I got some immediate positive feedback from the herd, and I was like, okay, great. And the first couple of episodes were like, okay, let me tell you my history, my background, and let's talk about some business, and let's talk about stuff like that. And then it's kind of evolved. And it's still evolving to, all right, well, let me tell you about some low points in my life. And let me tell you how, when I feel lost, how I'm overcoming that. When I got that haterade going, what do I do with that? How to deal with haters. I just did one this past week on how to make the most of live events. But I give it I give them Tim Castleman, basically. The drinks help, of course, even though I don't even drink that often anymore. And most times I don't drink a ton before the podcast. But I just wanted to give people a different view and a different opinion, and not so serious, more lighthearted and fun. And like you and I are at the bar having a couple drinks, and you go, hey man, let me ask you a question. When you go to these live events, what do you try to do? I'll do it simple. Here's what I do, and here's what this and that. So it's more like we're having a beer, and I try to keep it conversational, even though it's just one way. And again, the whole we're at the bar thing. I want it to be the same way you and I are having this talk right now. I mean, you've listened to a few of the podcasts. They're probably similar in nature, of us just having a conversation more than just, like, hey, everybody, this and that.
Yeah. I find doing the show, having done a show for like a year and a half, a while back, and then I stopped doing it, and I started doing it again. I realized that I miss doing it. Like, therapeutic is not the right word.
Right.
Like, cathartic makes it seem like, oh, it's really, helping me with my pain. It's not that I'm in pain, but I find it, like, really valuable to just have that brain dump.
Yeah, and that's exactly, like, I joke on some of those things. I'm like, all right, you guys are going to get a free therapy session, because what I'll do is I'll work through an issue. Or like, for me, it's like something's on my brain, and it's like I get 30 minutes to just talk about it. And a lot of times I'm just talking to myself, like, all right, Tim, well, let's, man, okay, why are you hating on this person? Well, because they did this, and that. All right, is that realistic? Okay, no, and my goal is that by you listening to my process, you realize, like, oh shit, I have that same problem. Oh, this is how Tim fixes it. Let me at least try it. So that's my ultimate goal. But really, like you say, it's cathartic is probably a good word. But like you say, you just get the brain dump and say, all right, I want to talk everything I can about X, Y, and Z. And
it's like it can be really hard to think your way out of a problem or think your way into a topic, even if it's just like a business topic you're exploring.
Right.
But when you talk it out in front of an audience, it's different somehow. Like, it makes it more three-dimensional in your own head.
Right.
So you can grab it a little better and deal with it.
With counseling, at least my lady says, about 6 words to me. She always starts off, so how's your week been? Well, what do you think about that? It's the same thing. But really, what is she getting me to do? Well, okay, let's talk about that. Well, how does that make you feel? And just by having those prompts, it allows you to kind of connect the synapses together and work through it. And you're like, oh shit, and you solve your own problem. But in the interim, you learn how to solve your own problem too.
Right.
You discover, hey, that's the process I go through.
Well, earlier in the show, you talked about how since you've gone solo again after your partnership, that you feel like you're kind of reinventing yourself. But before you got into the partnership, like, you were already known as kind of like not even like authenticity wasn't what it was, but like shockingly frank.
Yeah, I was just real frank. Yeah.
Yeah. So like the first thing that I had known you for, even way back at that conference I attended, was you hilariously were anti-offering refunds of any kind.
Right.
And that made you stand out in a market where every seller was trying to bend over backwards for the next $7
Right.
from some low-end entertainment-based buyer.
Right.
And that is what set you off as a persona to me, like before I knew you as a person.
Right.
I'm like, there's that guy who is hilarious about not taking refunds.
Right.
Then you had the urinal video.
Yeah, right,
Refresh, well, for the people that don't know, refresh my memory what that was.
Okay, so...
Because that was like old Tim. That's like way back.
That was skinny Tim. That's before Tim found cookies, right? So, no, it was I lovingly call it my pissing video. And it's people talk to me about it all the time, but when I was doing offline marketing, I used to work out of a cigar lounge, and it wasn't attended during the day because those people had jobs, I guess.
Right.
And they had taken over a building that had an old-fashioned urinal in it. So I brought my video camera in, and I shot it. Basically, imagine me peeing, but looking over my shoulder. I really wasn't actually peeing, but it was a good pattern interrupt.
Yeah.
And it was something that got people's attention. I did one where I was sitting on the toilet doing that, with the newspaper. I mean, I did all that stuff to kind of stand out from the audience. And as I look back, like thinking about the no refund, people said I was blunt, and that was great, and I loved that. What I didn't love was people thought I didn't have a heart. Like, people go like, dude, I thought you were an asshole. Like, I can't tell you how many people told me, like, when I first met you, I thought you were an asshole, and then I got to realize you had a heart. And also, a couple things, right? One, my mentor was Dan Kennedy, and I couldn't afford new Dan, so all I got was old Dan stuff. And old Dan was a bitter old man. Like, he hated his customers, So because I listened to that stuff literally for hours and hours, like, it just subconsciously planted on me. That was one. Two, I needed the money, right? Like, if you gave me $7 today, tomorrow I'm eating with that money. So I can't give it back to you. And I hate people that aren't all in, especially for a $7 product. Like, we have a mutual friend of a friend, he's got a 15% refund rate. But that's because they know that, hey, over the lifetime, this person will spend that money over. I have like a 0.03% refund rate. And I know that I make less money than that guy, but every dollar I collect, I keep, And he talks about, like, doing hilarious things. So I used to do this. I don't do this now. But I used to, like, if you gave a refund and I said no, you filed a dispute and you lost, because you always lost, then I would shoot a personal video for you, like lighting a cigar on fire with your money, right? And I would post that to the public. And I do that for a very specific reason, to attract and repel people. Because there are a certain number of people that go, oh, I want nothing to do with that guy.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of people, especially in our industry, that hit me up and go, dude, I wish I could. They really, what I get from a lot of our peers is, dude, I wish I had half the balls you did to do that stuff.
Yeah, it's funny, in another group that I'm experimenting with for, like, personal development for slackers or whatever, I posted something about that the power to say no when you want to instead of having to say yes because you have to is something that everybody wants.
Right.
And even down to, like, the stupid beard. I've gone to, like, auto shops where, like, the technicians are tattoo sleeves, pierce this, pierce this.
Yeah, got the gauges.
Yeah, he's got, like, a little trimmed beard. He's like, I wish my boss would let me grow my beard like that. Yeah. And I'm like, that guy obviously has a lot of
anti-society.
Yeah. He's put a lot of investment, permanent investment into being able to look a certain way, to portray a certain thing.
Right.
And that dude can't grow his beard a certain length.
Right.
Like, that dude looks at me and is like, that dude's punk rock.
Right. Yeah.
Like, that tickled me so hard. But it's true that really that ability to be a jerk and not worry about the consequences is very appealing to people.
Right.
Who, it's not that you're being a jerk unnecessarily, but people wish that they didn't have to take so much kicking around.
Right. Yeah, well, everyone that has a refund policy has had those guys who buy everything and then, hey, it's a Tuesday at 3:30, so I need my money back.
Yeah.
And it just infuriates them, but because they have to placate to the customers, and it goes back to the whole, do you want the general audience or do you want a tribe of people? I'd much rather have 1,000 people that open every email, read every email, watch every podcast, listen to every, that are just fans of mine, than have 30,000 people that are like, sometimes, And sometimes I am. I don't want meek. I don't want meager. I don't want on the fence. I want you active. I want you engaged. I want you involved. And I want to be actively engaged and involved with you as well. And to me, together we rise. And that's just kind of look at it.
That's, like I said, that's one thing that always stood out about you is that you had that kind of bluntness,
right?
Is what you said,
right?
And you're right that the earlier Tim didn't have the heart,
right?
Which is the stuff that you put into your podcast now, which
right.
everyone is loving,
right? Yeah, I'm really surprised. I mean, really, I'm surprised the positive comments. Like, I'm grateful for them, but like, I've had people like I would be like, "There's no way that guy would listen to my podcast." He's like, "Dude, I love it. I listen to every episode." I'm like,
"Yeah,
oh, that's amazing."
We were having lunch together when we first got to Orlando, and someone told you that he takes you to the gym.
Yeah. I was like, that's creepy, but great. Yeah. But I mean, that's awesome to think about that because you don't know how far your reach is, and there's hundreds of people that would never say that to me, and it's like that's just great, and I agree with you, and I will also say this, I was very angry when I got into this business because I had just been practically fired from my job, and it was like, oh, I'm not going to do this ladder ascension bullshit. I'm going straight to the top. Like, and I'm just gonna jackhammer my way up there and break down the walls. And I mean, within 6 months of being in this business, I was speaking at that Warrior Forum, and I made that happen, And I had someone recommend me, but I called. I was deliberate. I didn't care. I was like, I'm going to speak at that event. I'm doing it.
I did it. Yeah. I did it very similarly. I'll have beginner copywriters say, well, how did you work your way up from 4-figure letters to charging 5 figures for a sales letter? I'm like, I didn't.
Yeah.
Like, I just started at 5 figures. And they're like, well, how did you earn that? I'm like, there's no dues to pay, or
there's no college that I got.
There's no ladder where someone has to give me permission to charge whatever I want to charge.
Right.
This is what I want to get paid to do what I used to do at my day job.
Right.
I'm going to find people who spend that money on that because I know they're out there.
Right.
I'm just like, why work my way up?
Yeah. Well, and the thing about working your way up is it's such a struggle because, I've heard you talk about this, and it's true. It's like if you're doing 297 sales letters, you're doing them for everybody. Where instead you should be like, hey, that Tim Castleman, like Nick, right? Mm-hmm. Nick's a great example. Nick is a guy who I've seen come up. This would
be Nick Garcia, our assistant editor on the Cult of Copy newsletter.
Yeah, I didn't want to.
He's here at our event, but I'll give him a plug. He's an excellent working copywriter.
Well, but he was smart because he worked with you, and through that he got introductions to me, Anthony, a bunch of other people. So he's writing higher dollar copy than most copywriters, and he's working with people that have an impact, right? Like if you're going to go work for free, you want to work for a guy who has a list, who has a following, who can knock it out of the park.
The only time it's okay to work for free,
and not even free, but I mean,
well, I mean, to not charge full price is if you're going to get more out of it than what that money would be worth to you.
Right.
So the only way to do it is if you're going to get reach or you're going to get connections or any of that stuff. And it's funny you said about pursuing speaking gigs because I know you had been like a stage hypnotist.
Yeah, I was a stage hypnotist for a couple years.
And you'd already had like face-to-face sales experience.
Right.
So you knew you could just jump on stage and like do a good job.
Well, yeah. Well, the hypnotism more than the sales stuff for sure. But yeah, I knew that I didn't know. I mean, I didn't know what I was supposed to do or how I was doing it, and I think that really helps. Like a lot of people are like, well, how do you do your talk? Well, you break it down into this and that, and it's mechanical. I was like, I'm just gonna get up there and bullshit for 90 minutes and have a great time. And then when I got off the stage, and the guy met me there, and I was like, uh-oh, one and done here. Like it was good. And he's like, I want you back next year. And I was like, dude, I don't. What are you talking about? He goes, I want you back next year. And I was like, I just thought that's how it was. I was like, oh, okay, so I'm in the green room with the other speakers, and I'm like, yeah, man, we're gonna do this again next year. And they're like, what are you talking about? They haven't invited me back yet. And that's when it occurred to me, like, oh, that was something special. And then Stompernet, they had a lady in the audience, and she goes, I'd like you to come speak at the event. I was like, sure. Like, I had no clue. Frank Kern could have been there and be like, dude, I want to do a product with you. And I would have not known that it was a big deal. It's like, this weird guy named Frank wants me to do something with him,
Yeah, it's something I tell people about. They're like, how'd you get that speaking gig? I'm like, well, I found out whose event it was, and I bothered him.
Yeah.
Well, like the thing to realize is, like, he's got a problem too.
Yeah.
Booking all these speakers.
Right.
If you make it easy for him and like you can give him some credentials that make you look like you know what you're talking about.
Right.
he'll probably throw you on there, you know?
But the cool thing about it is there's a million regular speakers, right? Like we're at this event. It's 3 days, I think it is.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to see a single one except for probably Brad's talk, you know?
Right.
But here's the thing. My presentations are dramatically different than everybody else's, I find. Usually when I go to this, normally it's like the guy who's up there in a suit, a tie, and like, all right, let's go through these steps and stuff. And I get up there and I'm drinking on stage and cussing and swearing and talking about porn and Call of Duty and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And they don't have guys like that. You can't just get a guy out of the audience to do that. So the other thing that makes you is in demand because you're different than everybody else, and they can do a million generic IM speakers. You know,
Mm-hmm.
It's like we're going to take your guy out. This year it's not Facebook, it's YouTube. They can do that all day long, but they can't do another you. And if you make it all about you, they have to get you right. It's like people are like at this event, they're like, "When are you talking?" I'm like, "I'm not talking," and they're like, "Fuck, I came to this event."
If you give a talk, you don't want the audience to be like, I like the topic of that talk.
Yeah.
You want them to be like, that guy was amazing.
Yeah, exactly. And I get that a ton. People are like, dude, you were so
In fact, it's even
hilarious.
better if they can barely remember what your talk was about, but they
Right.
still remember it because you were so good.
And see, and that took me a long time to understand too, because I used to get offended. I'm like, it's great that I made you laugh, but what did you learn? And what I had to understand was people were buying into me. They weren't buying it. Like anyone can teach you Kindle marketing, but they buy because they know like me, you know. And that's the thing that really I have to understand. And like you say, it's like that's great because if you don't remember what I talked about, then I'll just make a course and I'll sell it to you, and you won't remember what that is. So then I'll make that as part of another course and another and another.
Yeah, it turns you into a personal brand in the truest sense of the word, in that you can teach them things they can literally get for free in other places.
Right.
But they like your take on it because you made it a unique package, unique proposition.
Yeah.
For them to listen into. Maybe you made it funnier.
Yeah,
maybe,
and that's the thing.
Maybe they're like, this would be boring as hell, but you throw some cuss words in and I'm in.
Right, yeah, and that's it. They're because they want to get, it's the same exact thing. It's like, well, I want to learn how to do Kindle. It's like, go to Kindle and buy 20 books on how to do Kindle, and you probably have more information than you could ever use. Cost you $40. Or you can pay me $67 and we're going to hang out for 2 hours, and I'm going to make you laugh, and we're going to have a good time, and we're going to talk about this stuff as well.
A good example is last week's show that I did for how to set up a Facebook group. So I have a paid training group about how to do Facebook groups as a business the way that I do mine. As part of that training, I give them like advanced, conceptual stuff for how to set everything up, why to do things a certain way, like how to use the tools that are there. So what I did was I made a post that's like, do you guys want me to get like super basic and just show you how to set up the group on Facebook? Like watch me do it on screen? And I got a positive response from that, but I'm like, it's not going to be part of the paid content because you could literally
go to YouTube.
Right, like it's pretty self-explanatory, and it was funny because I pulled it up on screen, and Facebook themselves have added like a meter that's like you're 33% done.
Oh,
do this
wow.
thing next.
Oh, okay, yeah,
You're 45% done.
Right.
Do this thing next. Like it couldn't be easier, but they still were like, yeah, we want to watch you do it.
Right.
Like okay.
Okay, yeah.
And that's like you were saying, that 2 steps ahead concept.
Right.
Of you don't have to be the guru at the top of the mountain that's conquered the entire mountain.
Right.
You want to be the Sherpa that's like 2 steps ahead of them. That's like, let me give you a hand because I'm right here.
And the great thing about that I understand now that I'm a year into it is they pay you for the journey. They pay you, right? So instead of going the old way where you're at the top of the mountain and you're here, well, this is all they're paying you for. For me, I'm starting down here, and they're paying me all the way up.
Right, and you have a whole product line by the time you get to where you want to be. And not only that, your earliest customers that actually bought those things and followed in your footsteps are pretty badass themselves.
Yeah, exactly.
So, like, your biggest fans are themselves badasses.
Right.
So, like, that guy must know what he's talking about.
Right.
Like, he's got all these badasses that I've heard of.
Well, and not only that,
fans.
but, like we talked to our buddy Don Wilson a little while ago, and 2 years ago, Don was convinced he couldn't sell anything more than a $9 product. Well, now, this guy's doing $5,000 just to talk to me programs, and he's going up from there. I guarantee it's going to be in 5 years, if he keeps going, it's going to be 50, 60K.
He's going to be in like Tony Robbins' $1 million phone number territory.
Yeah,
easily.
Exactly. And the thing is, what got him there was results. But I remember Don when he was giving away 100% on his WSOs just to build a list, and he'd shoot a personal video, right? But if you followed him from there to where he is now, you see how far he's come, and it creates more of a want, because it's like, man, like I'm even to the point where I'm like, Don, I think I need to give you some money, man, and you got to coach me up, right? And here's a guy who came after me, and not to be mean, but I mean that's really what it is. So I think that's great that people follow you on the journey, and they'll go with you, and like you say, he's got a ton of results. That was the whole point of that. He's got a ton of results. All the sales pages have that. And the thing that I love about my model that I do is it's not about me. It's really about my student success, because it's great. How many times you bought a program where they're like, just do this and it works, and it doesn't work for you, but it worked for them. Most of my stuff works for me good, but works for my students great. So I don't always have to be the one that's innovative. I don't have to be the one that's getting results. I can say, yeah, I can do it, but look at the results those guys get.
Right.
And really, to a degree, that's what Don, now thinking about it, that's what Don does. I haven't seen Don post a Facebook thing about...
He does a thing and then immediately turns around and teaches people how to do it.
And they get a huge result.
Right, and then he takes those results and rolls it into marketing, whatever the next thing is he's going to do.
But the thing is, it makes him more powerful, because it's not like, oh, I made all this money. It's like, look at all this money I made other people. And, it's just like you say, some people may not be... or may not want to learn from the guy who's making $50,000 a month doing nonfiction. They may want to learn from Tim Castleman, who's written one nonfiction book, made it a bestseller, got a ton of reviews, and is now going to be building and scaling. Because to them, that's a lot more achievable and doable than, oh, I got to have 50
Well, it's
bucks.
like to take it out of the business realm, because what we're talking about can be applied to anything that you are going to be the teacher of, the advocate of, that people would follow, and you build an audience. Look at, like, weight loss.
Yeah.
So the most ripped, gigantic bodybuilder, he can be like, well, you should lose some weight, fatty.
Right.
Like, but that's not the same as, like, you have Richard Simmons, who himself was a big fat person.
Right.
Even though he's lost the weight, he's not, like, super fit.
No.
He's thin.
Yeah.
But he's relatable because they're like, well, if that kind of weird dude can do it, I should be able to do it too. Again, it's that reality celebrity thing where you're making yourself into a celebrity just to...
Well, if you're a busy mom, you want to lose weight from a person that's a busy mom. I mean, really, because it's like, well, of course, this guy can do it because he's got 8 hours a day, work out at the gym. That's all he does. It's like, but this lady has the same number of kids that I do, the same type of lifestyle, and she was able to get the thing I want. They're going to do that. And the other thing is this, like, I'm not going to learn from a bodybuilder, because I'm thinking, holy crap, what do I have to do to get to that level? I'd much rather learn from someone like Richard Simmons, where it's like, oh man, all I got to do is walk a little bit, kick my knees up a little bit, sweat to the oldies, like, and so not only is it a lesser result, but because it's lesser, it's a smaller hurdle for them to jump in their mind. It's like, if I go to you and I go, listen, tomorrow, here's 2 things you can do. One, we can get up and we're going to go for a 26-mile run, and then the day will be a success. Or I go, hey, you know what, today, let's just walk around the block one time, and then we're successful. Well, of course you want to be guy number 2, because it's achievable, right? And people know it, and people are going to do it, and then they're going to be like, holy shit, today was a great day, I walked around the block. And they spread that word for you because they're getting these little milestones along the way.
Yeah, basically any positive transformation you want to do to yourself, if you do it out in the open in front of people, you'll get an audience following you that wants to do that same thing.
Look at Anthony. Anthony, our good friend Anthony Ayers, lost a shitload of weight, right? And documented it all on Facebook. And now I guarantee you, he's going to open a Facebook group, and he'll have hundreds of people pour in. And on that, but look how many, like, he encouraged Don, he encouraged Brian, and however many hundreds of other people that aren't publicly posting stuff like that. But they all attribute that stuff back to him. So he'll be kind of
like
the guru.
A year ago, you would not have been like, that dude's going to be like a fitness guru. No,
nobody told him to do it.
He just went to the gym, put in the work, took pictures of his progress, and now people are asking him how he did it. It's like, I don't know why you're asking. Because I showed you.
Exactly. Exactly. Well, and it's one of those things, like, I always tell people, like, well, I don't have any results. It's like, well, go make them. Like, do that. Like our buddy Ben, he's doing this crazy fitness thing with this guy who's charging him a ridiculous amount of money per month, but he's lost a bunch of weight doing it.
Yeah, in fact, he said we were talking about how important it was to get results.
Right.
And Ben told us that he went to an event like in 1 month, and then 2 weeks later went to another event.
Yeah.
And within that 2 week span, people were like, "What did you do?"
Yeah.
And he's like, "I don't know what you mean." They're like, You like lost a bunch of weight.
Yeah.
You look like 10 years younger.
Yeah.
And it's only 2 weeks later.
Yeah, and
like,
you know
were
what
you
that
sick
does?
2 weeks ago?
That immediately justifies that check he cuts every month.
Does.
Yeah, because
does.
it's ego. But here's the thing I know about Ben, right? I would not be shocked if down the line there's a product on weight loss from him. But what did he do? He paid to get the results.
Exactly.
He documents it, and then guess what? He makes his money back.
Mm-hmm.
Like one of the smartest things I ever heard was actually from my buddy Steve Scott. He said, "Dude, if you want to do something in your life, right, just go do it, and then talk about doing it, and most of the time it'll pay for that, you know? So if you're like, man, I really want to go learn how to do X, Y, or Z, well, go do X, Y, or Z, like box, learn ballet, meditation, then write a book about it or do a course on it, and it may not pay for all of it, but, I mean, could you imagine learning how to, like, fly and getting 50% of that paid for?
Or like those two dudes that have been doing that webcomic for years, Penny Arcade.
Oh, yeah, right, yeah.
They just were a couple of high school nerd kids that were friends. One dude wrote it, the other dude drew it, and his drawings were not that good when he was in high school. But like now he's amazing.
Yeah.
Because he's pursued it as a career.
And
he's got better and better. Now they're like producing shows.
Right.
They have a game conference every year that's like bigger than E3 now.
The guys from South Park, you know, this guy started with just freaking things. Now they're doing the Book of Mormon. Now they own, you know, I mean, they're getting a piece of Comedy Central. I mean, you know, you can start from a center and then expand out from that.
It's two things, and we're at the end of the show, so we'll wrap it up here and see if we have any questions or anything. But you don't have to be excellent. You have to be different.
Yep.
And then you have to show up and do it.
Yep.
And you have to show people you doing it.
Yep, exactly.
That's pretty much as easy as it gets. Being different is really easy if you're just willing to be authentic and take whatever haters you're going to get along with the fans. But be a little bit different so that picking you versus picking everyone else is a choice that's clear. It's as simple as that. Just show up and do it every day or however frequently you want to so that the people who can't get enough of it can just keep coming back. They know where there's going to be more because you're going to show up and do it. And the trick is people get so scared of, like, what if this one sucks, though?
Right.
Like, you've even told me, like, I don't like that podcast episode that much. But, like, you do a better one next week.
Right.
And people don't remember the bad ones that were irrelevant to them because they're still going to come back next week to see if it's better.
Right.
So, like, literally, if you do make a bad one, that just makes them want the next one even more.
Yeah. Oh, he'll
like,
redeem himself.
Is it going to bring it back?
Right.
It actually creates tension that keeps your audience coming back.
Right.
If you're not, like, perfectly awesome every time.
True. And I know we got to end, but this point was really driven home to me when I started doing the business journaling, which I'd love to talk about another time. But remember, to keep myself accountable, every day I would just post a photo of it, just to prove to myself. And people started following me like crazy for that. And I got to where I'd post a photo, and I'd have people email me, text me, and PM me on Facebook going, dude, tell me what are you doing? What are you writing about? What's going on there? And it's just crazy that the art or the act of just doing something daily, taking a photo of it, built me a following.
They didn't even know what was in the book.
Yeah. I mean, I probably could have done something with it. I mean, really, I could have a business journaling group or something like that, but they were just so intrigued, and like people would email me and be like, dude, you're really inspiring. And I'm like, I'm just writing in a journal for 30 minutes a day. Like, I'm not curing cancer here. Like, like one of these pages has a penis photo.
It's just as dumb as somebody's picture of their food.
Yeah.
But some people like that shit.
They do. They love
Someone wants to know what you ate for lunch.
And that's the thing we're saying. Like, something as mundane as that, you will build a following. I guarantee you.
Well, thanks so much for joining us,
Dude,
Tim.
this is awesome.
We're going to go through the end of the show spiel here. Once again, this has been our guest, Tim Castleman. I'm your usual host, the Reverend Dr. Sir Colin Theriot, Pontifex Maximus of the Cult of Copy, a secretive worldwide organization of persuasion engineers that we currently live on Facebook. If you would like to join us, you can do so at the URL below our names here, cultofcopy.com. We record live new episodes of the show every week, normally on Thursdays at 2 p.m. Eastern. If you want to join us and interact, we're going to have hopefully some Q&A at the end of this. You can join us at our YouTube channel, youtube.com/cultofcopy, where we have 20 other old episodes, older than this one. If you like what you see, please subscribe, join our group, interact with us. Now we're going to go over to Zane, our director, who has his own group called G-Tron Marketing in Google+. If you are interested in how we actually run the show from a nitty-gritty standpoint, he is the expert in that. But we're going to go ahead and see if we have any questions or comments over there, Zane.
Yeah, there's I don't know how to put this. A lot of beard-related comments.
Oh yeah, I bet.
Beard brother. Yeah, you can't be on a podcast unless you have beards. Yeah.
So, like, I don't know if you want to address any of these, but there were quite a few. That's dominating the number of questions and comments.
Why don't you hit us with the best beard question?
All right, let's see what we can.
I love that we spit all that knowledge and
right.
Talk about the beard. That's a perfect example, though. Don't give a shit about what we're talking about. They just want to talk about the beards. Yeah.
Well, it's funny because people have asked me about the beard. They're like, "Did you put any conscious effort into that?" I'm like, "No, I just stopped shaving."
Same thing.
And then people started commenting on it.
Nice.
Okay, but seriously,
this is so. I guess this would.
Thank you. I did the same thing you did. I just decided one day, I was like, I don't want to shave. I'd always tried, this is the truth, I'd always tried to grow a beard, and I couldn't because I had like Patch McAdams over here, like, you know, fucking 30-year-old man, 16-year-old boy right here. And it finally, for whatever reason, maybe I finally hit puberty. It's
because when you hit the right amount of awesomeness, the beard just flies out of your face.
And then one day, it just I've always had a goatee. I kept goatee the last like 5-6 years. I decided to grow it out. I'm with you. I may keep it. I may not. It's great to have people do that. It's like watching the second edition of Twins. Yeah. I love it. Thank you, Bill.
Yeah, it's funny because I've actually had that same conversation. People are like, I wish I could grow a beard, like just physically grow one. And I'm like, when you're ready, it'll happen.
Yeah. Well, it's hilarious. Yesterday,
make yourself worthy of it.
When I saw Colin, he had red shoes, like he has these blue kicks, and I literally had red shoes, and I thought about taking them, and I'm so glad I didn't. The amount of shit we would have gotten would have been terrible. So thank you, Bill Davis, for pointing out that we're twinsies.
Yeah.
That's the only way he let me do it. He's like, dude, you have to grow a beard for a year.
I mean, it's the same with anybody who's like friends and they talk every day. What's funny is Tim and I don't see each other every day.
Yeah.
So it's weird that we ended up looking like each other, but we do talk frequently.
Yeah, you didn't even know I had the beard until December when we go to the marketers' mansion. You were like, dude,
right? And somebody was like, "Are you mad at Tim for growing a beard?" I'm like, lots of dudes have had beards before mine. Like, I do not have a trademark on beards.
Yeah, but no, that's the number one question I've gotten here. So why did you grow a beard like Colin? I'm like, I didn't realize he had a patent on the beards. I didn't realize we had one bearded guy in all of IM, and he had taken that slot. Like, I'll stop that.
I live outside of Atlanta, and they got like a pretty big hipster enclave, and like your bartender in Midtown has a beard.
Yeah.
Like guaranteed.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Anyways, if that's all we got, like nobody gave a crap about our content. They just wanted to talk about it. That's cool. The whole show is open to your interpretation. As long as you guys like it and stick around, it could be for whatever reason. I'm fine with that. So thanks once again to Tim and to Zane for joining us on a special Friday show. Adios from Orlando and Marketing Mayhem, and we will see you Thursday, 2 p.m. Eastern next week for another episode of the Cult of Copy Show. Thanks for coming, everyone.
See ya.
And we're live.
Hey, everybody.